America's financial infrastructure. Okay, so the data centers that undergird the banking system, right? So you have a bank account, right? And it's all stored on a server somewhere. What happens if that server gets blown up? Your money is gone, right? And so I point this out because America has a huge problem, which is there's too much liquidity in the system. And so if you're trying to run a financial system, you can't have that, because if there's too much liquidity, no one actually works, right? If you got $1 million sitting in a bank, you're like, okay, I could just sit at home and gamble with it or do OnlyFans, or I could go to work from 9 to 5, put up with an asshole boss, do work that is meaningless, and get paid nothing for it, right? So you have the situation where no one wants to work anymore. So the only solution to that is you just destroy the banking system. You burn out people's cash. So now they're forced to work. You've got these boomers who these boomers might have like $3 million in a bank account, and then much more in stock market, right? And then much more in real estate. And so they can just support their kids and their grandkids. You can't have that, right? If you're going to transition back to a manufacturing economy. So the first part I want to look at is what goes on in Trump's head. What motivates him? And he is a reality TV star. He spent all of his life in the tabloids, right? And being in the tabloids means that you're just constantly curating, manufacturing your image in the public. So in the 80s, his image was that of a billionaire playboy, right? So he's always with like these beautiful models. But the thing that people don't recognize about Donald Trump is he's very, very strategic, and he's very manipulative, and he's very deliberate in everything he does. And so I'll give you an example of that. Okay, I didn't know this until I think 2 years ago, but I just found out that Donald Trump does not drink. He's never drunk. He refuses to touch alcohol. And that's cognitive dissonance, right? Because you imagine, wow, you're a billionaire playboy, and you host like the most lavish parties in New York. You are dating supermodels, and you are hanging out with these celebrities. So you don't drink? So picture this, where, like it's a ballroom. You got 1,000 of the most beautiful, wealthiest people in America, and they're getting drunk, and they're doing drugs in the bathroom. And Donald Trump, he's the host. He's going around and he's shaking hands, conversing with people, taking pictures, but he's not drinking. What kind of man does that? Why would he do that? So my only interpretation is that Donald Trump, he's deliberate, okay? He's been planning this for a long time. If you go back to the late 80s, early 90s, and like this guy's going to like this Republican National Convention, Democratic National Convention, he's talking to CNN, he's saying like, you know what? I should run for president. And if I ran, I would win. So people don't really appreciate this about Donald Trump, right? So that's the first point I make. Second point I would make is everyone thinks Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. But my question is this. If he were in the Epstein files, wouldn't Joe Biden and his Attorney General, Merrick Garland, wouldn't they have exposed this during the 4 years they were in office when they had access to all the Epstein files? And people also forget that Donald Trump is hated by the elite. He was hated by Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Because he didn't play by their rules. He wasn't part of the club, right? So you look at all these people who are flying to Epstein Island.